Chapter 72. Hunting, slaughtering. Chapter 1. The mentioning of Allah's name while hunting. Narrated Adi bin Hatim. I asked the Prophet about the game killed by a mirad, a sharp-edged piece of wood, or a piece of wood provided with a sharp piece of iron used for hunting. He said, if the game is killed with its sharp edge, eat of it. But if it is killed with its shaft, with a hit by its broadside, then the game is unlawful to eat, for it has been beaten to death. I asked him about the game killed by a trained hound. He said, if the hound catches the game for you, eat of it, for killing the game by the hound is like its slaughtering. But if you see with your hand or hands another dog, and you are afraid that it might have shared in hunting the game with your hand and killed it, then you should not eat of it, because you have mentioned Allah's name on sending your hand only, but you have not mentioned it on some other hand. Chapter 2. The game killed by the mirad. Narrated Adi bin Hatim. I asked Allah's Messenger about the mirad. He said, if you hit the game with its sharp edge, eat it, but if the mirad hits the game with its shaft, with a hit by its broadside, do not eat it, for it has been beaten to death with a piece of wood, unlawful. I asked, if I let loose my trained hound after a game. He said, if you let loose your trained hound after the game and mention the name of Allah, then you can eat. I said, if the hound eats of the game, he said, then you should not eat of it, for the hound has hunted the game for itself and not for you. I said, sometimes I send my hound and then I found some other hound with it. He said, don't eat the game, as you have mentioned the name of Allah on your dog only and not on the other. Chapter 3. The game killed by the broadside of Al-Mirad. Narrated Adi bin Hatim. I said, O Allah's Messenger, we let loose our trained hounds after a game. He said, eat what they hunt for you. I said, even if they killed the game. He replied, even if they killed the game. I said, we also hit the game with the mirad. He said, eat of the animal which the mirad kills by piercing its body, but do not eat of the animal which is killed by the broadside of the mirad. Chapter 4. About hunting with a bow. Narrated Abu Talaba al-Kushani. I said, O Allah's Prophet, we are living in a land ruled by the people of the scripture. Can we take our meals in their utensil? In that land there is plenty of game, and I hunt the game with my bow and with my hand that is not trained, and with my trained hand. Then what is lawful for me to eat? He said, as for what you have mentioned about the people of the scripture, if you can get utensil other than theirs, do not eat of theirs, but if you cannot get other than theirs, wash their utensils and eat out of it. If you hunt an animal with your bow after mentioning Allah's name, eat of it. And if you hunt something with your trained hand after mentioning Allah's name, eat of it. And if you hunt something with your untrained hound and get it before it dies and slaughter it, eat of it. Chapter 5. Al-Qadf and Al-Bunduka. Narrated Abdullah bin Maghafal that he saw a man throwing stones with 2 fingers at something, and said to him, "Do not throw stones, for Allah's messenger has forbidden throwing stones, or he used to dislike it." Abdullah added, "Throwing stones will neither hunt the game nor kill or hurt an enemy, but it may break a tooth or gouge out an eye." Afterwards, Abdullah once again saw the man throwing stones. He said to him, "I tell you that Allah's messenger has forbidden or disliked the throwing the stones in such a way, yet you are throwing stones. I shall not talk to you for such and such a period." Chapter 6. A Pet Dog. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, "Whoever keeps a pet dog, which is neither a watch dog nor a hunting dog, will get a daily deduction of 2 qirat from his good deeds." Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. I heard the Prophet saying, "If someone keeps a dog neither for hunting nor for guarding livestock, the reward for his good deeds will be reduced by 2 qirats per day." Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's messenger said, "If someone keeps a dog neither for guarding livestock nor for hunting, his good deeds will decrease in reward by 2 qirats a day." Chapter 7. If a hand eats of the game. Narrated Adi bin Hatim. I asked Allah's messenger, "We hunt with the help of these hounds." He said, "If you let loose your trained hounds after a game and mention the name of Allah, then you can eat what the hounds catch for you, even if they killed the game. But you should not eat of it if the hound has eaten of it, for then it is likely that the hound has caught the game for itself. And if other hounds join your hound in hunting the game, then do not eat of it." Chapter 8. If the hunter hits a game but does not catch it till 2 or 3 days. Narrated Adi bin Hatim. The Prophet said, "If you let loose your hound after a game and mention Allah's name on sending it, and the hound catches the game and kills it, then you can eat of it. But if the hound eats of it, then you should not eat thereof, for the hound has caught it for itself. And if along with your hound joined other hounds, and Allah's name was not mentioned at the time of their sending, and they catch an animal and kill it, you should not eat of it, for you will not know which of them has killed it. And if you have thrown an arrow at the game, and then find it dead 2 or 3 days later, and it bears no mark other than the wound inflicted by your arrow, then you can eat of it. But if the game is found dead in water, then do not eat of it." And it has also been narrated by Adi bin Hatim that he asked the Prophet, "If a hunter throws an arrow at the game, and after tracing it for 2 or 3 days, he finds it dead but still bearing his arrow, can he eat of it?" The Prophet replied, "He can eat if he wishes." Chapter 9. If somebody finds another hound with the game. Narrated Adi bin Hatim. I said, "O Allah's messenger, I let loose my hound after a game, and mention Allah's name on sending it." The Prophet said, "If you let loose your hound after a game, and you mention Allah's name on sending it, and the hound catches and kills the game and eats of it, then you should not eat of it, for it has killed it for itself." I said, "Sometimes when I send my hound after a game, I find another hound along with it, and I do not know which of them has caught the game." He said, You must not eat of it, because you have not mentioned the name of Allah except on sending your own hand, and you did not mention it on the other hand. Then I asked him about the game hunted with a mirad, a sharp-edged piece of wood, or a piece of wood provided with a sharp piece of iron used for hunting. He said, if the game is killed with its sharp edge, you can eat of it, but if it is killed by its broadside shaft, you cannot eat of it, for then it is like an animal beaten to death with a piece of wood. Chapter 10. What have been said about hunting. Narrated Adi bin Hatim. I asked Allah's Messenger, we hunt with these hands. He said, if you send your trained hands after a game and mention Allah's name on sending, you can eat of what they catch for you. But if the hand eats of the game, then you must not eat of it, for I am afraid that the hand caught it for itself, and if another hand joins your hands during the hunt, you should not eat of the game. Narrated Abu Talaba al-Kushani. I came to Allah's Messenger and said, O Allah's Messenger, we are living in the land of the people of the scripture, and we take our meals in their utensil, and in the land there is game, and I hunt with my bow and trained or untrained hands. Please tell me what is lawful for us of that. He said, as for your saying that you are living in the land of the people of the scripture, and that you eat in their utensils, if you can get utensils other than theirs, do not eat in their utensils. But if you do not find other than theirs, then wash their utensils and eat in them. As for your saying that you are in the land of game, if you hung something with your bow and have mentioned Allah's name while hunting, then you can eat the game. And if you hunt something with your trained hand and have mentioned Allah's name on sending it for hunting, then you can eat the game. But if you hunt something with your untrained hand and you were able to slaughter it before its death, you can eat of it. Narrated Anas bin Malik. We provoked a rabbit at Mar as-Saran till it started jumping. My companions chased it till they got tired, but I alone ran after it and caught it and brought it to Abu Talha. He sent both its legs to the Prophet, who accepted them. Narrated Abu Qatada, that once he was with Allah's Messenger on the way to Mecca. When he had covered some of the way to Mecca, he and some companions of his who were in the state of Iram remained behind the Prophet, while Abu Qatada himself was not in the state of Iram. Abu Qatada, seeing an onager, rode his horse and asked his companions to hand him a whip, but they refused. He then asked them to hand him his spear, but they refused. Then he took it himself and attacked the onager and killed it. Some of the companions of Allah's Messenger ate of it, but some others refused to eat. When they met Allah's Apostle, they asked him about that. He said, "It was meal given to you by Allah." Narrated Abu Qatada, the same hadith above, but he added, the Prophet asked, "Is there any of its meat left with you?" Chapter 11. The Hunt on Mountains. Narrated Abu Qatada. I was with the Prophet on a journey between Mecca and Medina, and all of them, yet the Prophet and his companions, were in the state of Iram, while I was not in that state. I was riding my horse, and I used to be fond of ascending mountains. So while I was doing so, I noticed that the people were looking at something. I went to see what it was, and behold, it was an onager. I asked my companions, "What is that?" They said, "We do not know." I said, "It is an onager." They said, "It is what you have seen." I had left my whip, so I said to them, "Hand to me my whip." They said, "We will not help you in that, in hunting the onager." I got down, took my whip and chased the animal on my horse, and did not stop till I killed it. I went to them and said, "Come on, carry it." But they said, "We will not even touch it." At last I alone carried it and brought it to them. Some of them ate of it, and some refused to eat of it. I said to them, "I will ask the prophet about it on your behalf." When I met the prophet, I told him the whole story. He said to me, "Has anything of it been left with you?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Eat, for it is a meal Allah has offered to you." Chapter 12. Lawful to you is water game, and its use for food for the benefit of yourselves. Narrated Jabir. We went out in a campaign, and the army was called the army of the Copts, and Abu Ubaidah was our commander. We were struck with severe hunger. Then the sea threw a huge dead fish called Al-Anbar, the like of which had never been seen. We ate of it for half a month, and then Abu Ubaidah took one of its bones and made an arch of it, so that a rider could easily pass under it. Narrated Jabir. The Prophet sent us an army unit of 300 warriors under the command of Abu Ubaidah to ambush a caravan of the Quraysh. But we were struck with such severe hunger that we ate the Copt desert bushes, so our army was called the army of the Copt. Then the sea threw a huge fish called Al-Anbar, and we ate of it for half a month, and rubbed our bodies with its fat till our bodies became healthy. Then Abu Ubaidah took one of its ribs and fixed it over the ground, and the rider passed underneath it. There was a man amongst us who slaughtered 3 camels when hunger became severe, and he slaughtered 3 more, but after that Abu Ubaidah forbade him to do so. Chapter 13. The eating of locusts. Narrated Ibn Abi Alfa. We participated with the Prophet in 6 or 7 Ghazawat, and we used to eat locusts with him. Chapter 14. The utensils of Magians and eating dead flesh. Narrated Abu Talaba al-Kushani. I came to the Prophet and said, "O Allah's Messenger, we are living in the land of the people of the Scripture, and we take our meals in their utensils, and there is game in that land, and I hunt with my bow, and with my trained hand, and with my untrained hand." The Prophet said, "As for your saying that you are in the land of the people of the Scripture, you should not eat in their utensils unless you find no alternative, in which case you must wash the utensils and then eat in them. As for your saying that you are in the land of game, if you hunt something with your bow, mention Allah's name while hunting the game, and eat. And if you hunt something with your trained hand, mention Allah's name on sending, and eat. And if you hunt something with your untrained hand and get it alive, slaughter it, and you can eat of it." Narrated Salama bin al-Aqwa. In the evening of the day of the conquest of Khaybar, the army made fires for cooking. The prophet said, "For what have you made these fires?" They said, "For cooking the meat of domestic donkeys." He said, "Throw away what is in the cooking pots and break the pots." A man from the people got up and said, "Shall we throw the contents of the cooking pots and then wash the pots instead of breaking them?" The prophet said, "Yes, you can do either." Chapter 15, mentioning Allah's name on slaughtering an animal. Narrated Rafi bin Khadij. We were with the Prophet in Dhul Hulayfa, and there the people were struck with severe hunger. Then we got camels and sheep as war booty and slaughtered them. The Prophet was behind all the people. The people hurried and fixed the cooking pots for cooking, but the Prophet came there and ordered that the cooking pots be turned upside down. Then he distributed the animals regarding 10 sheep as equal to 1 camel. One of the camels ran away, and there were a few horses with the people. They chased the camel, but they got tired, whereupon a man shot it with an arrow, whereby Allah stopped it. The Prophet said, "Among these animals some are as wild beasts, so if one of them runs away from you, treat it in this way." I said, "We hope, or we are afraid that tomorrow we will meet the enemy and we have no knives. Shall we slaughter our animals with canes?" The Prophet said, "If the killing tool causes blood to gush out and if Allah's name is mentioned, eat of the slaughterer animal, but do not slaughter with a tooth or a nail. I am telling you why. A tooth is a bone, and the nail is the knife of Ethiopians." Chapter 16, animals sacrificed on Al-Nusub and for the idols. Narrated Abdullah. Allah's messenger said that he met Said bin Amr Nufail at a place near Balda, and this had happened before Allah's messenger received the divine inspiration. Allah's messenger presented a dish of meat that had been offered to him by the pagans to Said bin Amr, but Said refused to eat of it, and then said to the pagans, "I do not eat of what you slaughter on your stone altars, on subs, nor do I eat except that on which Allah's name has been mentioned on slaughtering." Chapter 17, so slaughter by mentioning the name of Allah. Narrated Jundub bin Sufyan al-Bajali. Once during the lifetime of Allah's messenger, we offered some animals as sacrifices. Some people slaughtered their sacrifices before the Eid prayer. So when the Prophet finished his prayer, he saw that they had slaughtered their sacrifices before the prayer. He said, "Whoever has slaughtered his sacrifice before the prayer should slaughter another sacrifice in lieu of it. And whoever has not yet slaughtered it till we have prayed should slaughter it by mentioning Allah's name." Chapter 18, the instruments that cause the blood to gush out. Narrated Kab, that a slave girl of theirs used to shepherd some sheep at Sia, a mountain near Medina. On seeing one of her sheep dying, she broke a stone and slaughtered it. Kab said to his family, "Do not eat of it till I go to the Prophet and ask him, or till I send someone to ask him." So he went to the Prophet, or sent someone to him. The Prophet permitted them to eat it. Narrated Abdullah, that Kab had a slave girl who used to graze his sheep on a small mountain called Sia. situated near the market. Once a sheep was dying, so she broke a stone and slaughtered it with it. When they mentioned that to the prophet, he permitted them to eat it. Narrated Rafi bin Khadij, that he said, O Allah's Messenger, we have no knife. The Prophet said, if the killing tool causes blood to gush out, and if Allah's name is mentioned, eat of the slaughtered animal, but do not slaughter with a nail or a tooth. For the nail is the knife of Ethiopians, and a tooth is a bone. Suddenly a camel ran away, and it was stopped with an arrow. The Prophet then said, of these camels there are some which are as wild beasts. So if one of them runs away from you and you cannot catch it, treat it in this manner, shoot it with an arrow. Chapter 19. The animal slaughtered by a lady. Narrated Ka'b bin Malik. A lady slaughtered a sheep with a stone, and then the Prophet was asked about it, and he permitted it to be eaten. Narrated Mu'ad bin Sa'd or Sa'd bin Mu'ad. A slave girl belonging to Ka'b used to graze some sheep at Slah mountain. Once one of her sheep was dying, she reached it before it died and slaughtered it with a stone. The Prophet was asked, and he said, eat it. Chapter 20. Not to slaughter with a tooth, a bone or a nail. Narrated Rafi bin Khadij. The Prophet said, eat what is slaughtered with any instrument that makes blood flow out, except what is slaughtered with a tooth or a nail. Chapter 21. The animals slaughtered by Bedouins or the like. Narrated Aisha. A group of people said to the Prophet, some people bring us meat and we do not know whether they have mentioned Allah's name or not on slaughtering the animal. He said, mention Allah's name on it and eat. Those people had embraced Islam recently. Chapter 22. The animals slaughtered by the people of the scripture, Jews and Christians. Narrates Abdullah bin Mughaffal. While we were besieging the castle of Khaybar, somebody threw a skin full of fat, and I went ahead to take it, but on looking behind, I saw the Prophet and I felt shy in his presence, and did not take it. Chapter 23. Any domestic animal that runs away should be treated like a wild animal. Narrated Rafi bin Khadij. I said, O Allah's Messenger, we are going to face the enemy tomorrow, and we do not have knives. He said, hurry up in killing the animal. If the killing tool causes blood to flow out, and if Allah's name is mentioned, eat of the slaughtered animal. But do not slaughter with a tooth or a nail. I will tell you why. As for the tooth, it is a bone. And as for the nail, it is the knife of the Ethiopians. Then we got some camels and sheep as war booty, and one of those camels ran away, whereupon a man shot it with an arrow and stopped it. Allah's Messenger said, Of these camels there are some which are as wild beasts, so if one of them runs away and makes you tired, treat it in this manner. Chapter 24. An-Nar and Ad-Dab. Narrated Asma bint Abu Bakr. We slaughtered a horse by Nar during the lifetime of the Prophet and ate it. Narrated Asma. We slaughtered a horse by Dab during the lifetime of Allah's Messenger, while we were at Medina, and we ate it. Narrated Asma bint Abu Bakr. We slaughtered a horse by Nar during the lifetime of Allah's Messenger and ate it. Chapter 25. Al-Mutla, Al-Masbura and Mujat Tama. Narrated Hisham bin Zayd. Anas and I went to Al-Hakam bin Ayub. Anas saw some boys shooting at a tied hen. Anas said, "The Prophet has forbidden the shooting of tied or confined animals." Narrated Ibn Umar that he entered upon Yahya bin Sa'id while one of Yahya's sons was aiming at the hen. After tying it, Ibn Umar walked to it and untied it. Then he brought it and the boy and said, "Prevent your boys from tying the birds for the sake of killing them, as I have heard the Prophet forbidding the killing of an animal or other living thing after tying them." Narrated Sa'id bin Jubair. While I was with Ibn Umar, we passed by a group of young men who had tied a hen and started shooting at it. When they saw Ibn Umar, they dispersed, leaving it. On that, Ibn Umar said, "Who has done this?" The Prophet cursed the one who did so. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet cursed the one who did mutla to an animal, cut its limbs or some other part of its body while it is still alive. Narrated Abdullah bin Yazid. The Prophet forbade al-Nuba and al-Mutla. Chapter 26. The meat of chickens. Narrated Abu Musa al-Ashari. I saw the Prophet eating chicken. Narrated Saddam. We were in the company of Abu Musa al-Ashari, and there were friendly relations between us and this tribe of Jarm. Abu Musa was presented with a dish containing chicken. Among the people there was sitting a red-faced man who did not come near the food. Abu Musa said to him, "Come on and eat, for I have seen Allah's Messenger eating of it." "Yeah, chicken," he said. "I have seen it eating something dirty, and since then I have disliked it, and have taken an oath that I shall not eat it." Abu Musa said, "Come on, I will tell you or narrate to you. Once I went to Allah's Apostle with a group of Ashariyin and met him while he was angry, distributing some camels of rakat. We asked for months, but he took an oath that he would not give us any months, and added, "I have nothing to mount you on." In the meantime, some camels of booty were brought to Allah's Messenger, and he asked twice, "Where are al-Ashariyin?" So he gave us 5 white camels with big humps. We stayed for a short while after we had covered a little distance, and then I said to my companions, "Allah's Messenger has forgotten his oath. By Allah, if we do not remind Allah's Messenger of his oath, we will never be successful." So we returned to the Prophet and said, "O Allah's Messenger, we asked you for months, but you took an oath that you would not give us any months. We think that you have forgotten your oath." He said, "It is Allah who has given you months. By Allah, and Allah willing, if I take an oath and later find something else better than that, then I do what is better and expiate my oath." Chapter 27. Horseflesh. Narrated Asma. We slaughtered a horse during the lifetime of Allah's Messenger and ate it. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. On the day of the Battle of Khaybar, Allah's Messenger made donkey's meat unlawful and allowed the eating of horseflesh. Chapter 28. The meat of donkeys. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet made the meat of donkeys unlawful on the day of the Battle of Khaybar. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet prohibited the eating of donkey's meat. Narrated Ali. Allah's Messenger prohibited al-mutta, marriage, and the eating of donkey's meat in the year of the Khaybar battle. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet prohibited the eating of donkey's meat on the day of the Battle of Khaybar and allowed the eating of horse flesh. Narrated Al-Bara and Ibn Abi Awfa. The Prophet prohibited the eating of donkey's meat. Narrated Abu Talba. Allah's Messenger prohibited the eating of donkey's meat. Narrated Al-Suri. The Prophet prohibited the eating of beasts having fangs. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Someone came to Allah's Messenger and said, "The donkeys have been slaughtered and eaten." Another man came and said, "The donkeys have been destroyed." On that the Prophet ordered a caller to announce to the people, "Allah and His Apostle forbid you to eat the meat of donkeys, for it is impure." Thus the pots were turned upside down while the donkey's meat was boiling in them. Narrated Amr. I said to Jabir bin Zayd, "The people claim that Allah's Messenger forbade the eating of donkey's meat." He said, "Al-Hakam bin Amr al-Ghifari used to say so when he was with us, but Ibn Abbas, the great religious learned man, refused to give a final verdict and recited, 'Say, I find not in that which has been inspired to me anything forbidden to be eaten by one who wishes to eat it, unless it be carrion, blood poured forth, or the flesh of swine.'" 645. Chapter 29. The meat of beasts of prey having fangs. Narrated Abu Talaba. Allah's Messenger forbade the eating of the meat of beasts having fangs. Chapter 30. The skin of dead animals. Narrated Abdullah bin Abbas. Once Allah's Messenger passed by a dead sheep and said to the people, "Why don't you use its hide?" They said, "But it is dead." He said, "Only eating it is prohibited." Narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet passed by a dead goat and said, "There is no harm if its owners benefit from its skin." Chapter 31. The Musk. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Musk. Allah's Messenger said, "None is wounded in Allah's cause, but will come on the day of resurrection with his wound bleeding. The thing that will come out of his wound will be the color of blood, but its smell will be the smell of musk." Narrated Abu Musa. The Prophet said, "The example of a good pious companion and an evil one is that of a person carrying musk and another blowing a pair of bellows. The one who is carrying musk will either give you some perfume as a present, or you will buy some from him, or you will get a good smell from him. But the one who is blowing a pair of bellows will either burn your clothes, or you will get a bad smell from him." Chapter 32. The Rabbit. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Once we provoked a rabbit at Mar as-Saran. The people chased it till they got tired. Then I caught it and brought it to Abi Talha, who slaughtered it and then sent both its pelvic pieces or legs to the Prophet, and the Prophet accepted the present. Chapter 33. The Masjigur. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, "I do not eat masjigur, but I do not prohibit its eating." Narrated Khalid bin al-Walid. Allah's Messenger and I entered the house of Maimuna. A roasted mastigur was served. Allah's Messenger stretched his hand out to eat of it, but some woman said, "Inform Allah's Messenger of what he is about to eat." So they said, "It is mastigur, O Allah's Messenger." He withdrew his hand, whereupon I said, "O Allah's Messenger, is it unlawful?" He said, "No, but this is not found in the land of my people, so I dislike it." So I pulled the mastigur towards me and ate it, while Allah's Messenger was looking at me. Chapter 34. If a mouse falls into solid or liquid butter fat. Narrated Maimuna. A mouse fell into the butter fat and died. The Prophet was asked about that. He said, "Throw away the mouse and the butter fat that surrounded it, and eat the rest of the butter fat." As-Samn. Narrated As-Suri. Regarding an animal, e.g. a mouse or some other animal that had fallen into solid or liquid oil or butter fat, I had been informed that the mouse had died in butter fat, whereupon Allah's Messenger ordered that the butter fat near it be thrown away and the rest of the butter fat can be eaten. Narrated Maimuna. The Prophet was asked about a mouse that had fallen into butter fat and died. He said, "Throw away the mouse and the portion of butter fat around it and eat the rest." Chapter 35. Branding the faces. Narrated Salim. That Ibn Umar disliked the branding of animals on the face. Ibn Umar said, "The Prophet forbade beating animals on the face." Narrated Anas. I brought a brother of mine to the Prophet to do tonic for him, while the Prophet was in a sheepfold of his, and I saw him branding a sheep. The sub-narrator said, I think Anas said, branding it on the ear. Chapter 36. To slaughter sheep or camels from war booty without the permission of the companions. Narrated Erait bin Khadij. I said to the Prophet, "We will be facing the enemy tomorrow, and we have no knives for slaughtering." He said, "If you slaughter the animal with anything that causes its blood to flow out, and if Allah's name is mentioned on slaughtering it, eat of it, unless the killing instrument is a tooth or nail. I will tell you why. As for the tooth, it is a bow, and as for the nail, it is the knife of Ethiopians." The quick ones among the people got the war booty, while the Prophet was behind the people. So they placed the cooking pots on the fire, but the Prophet ordered the cooking pots to be turned upside down. Then he distributed the war booty among them, considering one camel as equal to 10 sheep. Then a camel belonging to the first party of people ran away, and they had no horses with them. So a man shot it with an arrow, whereby Allah stopped it. The Prophet said, "Of these animals there are some which are as wild beasts. So if any one of them runs away like this, do like this, shoot it with an arrow." Chapter 37. To kill a runaway camel. Narrated Rafi bin Khadij. While we were with the Prophet on a journey, one of the camels ran away. A man shot it with an arrow and stopped it. The Prophet said, "Of these camels, some are as wild beasts. So if one of them runs away and you cannot catch it, then do like this, shoot it with an arrow." I said, O Allah's Apostle, sometimes when we are in battles or on a journey we want to slaughter animals, but we have no knives. He said, listen, if you slaughter the animal with anything that causes its blood to flow out, and if Allah's name is mentioned on slaughtering it, eat of it, provided that the slaughtering instrument is not a tooth or a nail, and as the tooth is a bone and the nail is a knife of Ethiopians. Chapter 38. The eating of dead animals, etc. out of necessity.